Hello everyone, it's Mafalda. Welcome to a new video. This one has been a long time coming because honestly I haven't had the time to film this, but now I finally do have a few hours, so I'm going to take advantage of them. And today I'm going to be filming the part 1 of my last book haul of the year. I would honestly film the whole book haul in one video, in one go, but I feel like that would be very long and very boring as well, so I'm just gonna split it into two, especially because I have like a total of 60 books to talk about, so it's better if I split it. So in this one I'm going to be talking about 30 of the books that I bought in June, July, and August, and then in part 2 of this book haul I would talk about the books that I bought in September, because I bought a lot of books in September. Since October I've been on a book buying ban and I've actually been pretty good. I've only just bought books for the book club because I do need to get them and read them, and other than that I've bought like one book. So after part 2 of this book haul comes out, you can only expect a book haul from me next year because I'm not buying books until the end of the year. I'm only buying books in 2022 now, like actual new books, not for the book club. So yeah, let's get started because this is going to be a very long video. I honestly don't really know if this was the last book that I talked about in my last book haul in like May or June, but I feel like I didn't talk about this one, so I'm gonna mention it now. And it's very dusty, I don't know why, but it's On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This was our book club pick for June, so I've already read this one. Actually, just a little quick note, from like the 30 books that I have to show you today, more than half of them I've already read, which I'm really proud. I think I read like 17 of the 30 books that I'm about to show you, so that's very good. I'm really proud of myself because at least I'm not buying books and not reading them for a really long time. I'm actually like committing to the books that I'm buying, so very proud of myself. So this is one that I've already read for the book club, and this is a literary fiction work, very poetic and very whimsical. And this is written as a letter from a son to his mother, and the main character, who is called Little Dog, is in his late 20s and he's gay, and he's also from Vietnam, so he talks a lot about that. And overall, I enjoyed it. I'm not here to talk about my opinion, but I'm still gonna say it. I think I gave this one like the 3 or 3.5 stars. But yeah, that was the first book. Now the next book is one that I actually haven't read, but I'm really curious to read it, and it's Educated by Tara Westover. This is a non-fiction book about Tara Westover's life, so it's basically a memoir, and I think she grew up in a very like secluded area with not many people around, and I think her father didn't believe in getting an education, and so Tara, when she's like 16 or something, she decides to leave her house and actually get educated for the first time and go to school. And I have heard a lot of amazing things about this one. I don't think I have heard anything bad about this book, and I love memoirs. I love stories that are completely different from my own, so I'm really curious to read this book, and hopefully I'll read it soon. Now the next one I've already read as well, and it's Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. This was my very first Mary H.K. Choi ever in this year because I've already read more of hers, and this was very influenced by Casey from Casey Can Read because I had heard that she really loved this book, so I decided to immediately start listening to the audiobook and eventually get the copy myself. And I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the story and Mary H.K. Choi's writing, and also the way that she makes characters and develops them. I think she's really good at building characters and making them believable, which I really appreciate. And this is a story about two sisters, Jane and June, and they're not really close with each other, but one day the older sister, June, goes to Jane for the first time in a bunch of years and tells her that she has cancer and that she needs her help. And it's about these two sisters coming together because of this horrible thing in their lives. Yeah, it's a really good story. I have talked about this one in a vlog, I think. I will link it up here. But yeah, really enjoyed it. The next book that I have to talk about, I've already read as well. See, I'm reading the books that I buy. I'm so proud. And it's Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. This is probably one of my favorite books this year, especially because it means so much to me, because the main character is bisexual and it talks a lot about bisexuality, bi erasure, biphobia, everything of the sort, and I just think it's such an important book. And this book follows Darcy Phillips, and she is anonymously running a locker business. So basically she gives relationship and romance advice through a locker, but nobody knows that it's her behind the infamous locker 89, I think. And then one day the new kid at school, Alexander Broham, finds Darcy retrieving the letters from the locker and basically knows that that's who's running the locker. And Darcy doesn't want Alexander to out her as the person behind the locker, so they strike a deal and basically Alexander doesn't tell anyone, and Darcy helps him get back with his ex, and then chaos ensues, and it's a really good story. You have to read it. It's a really good book, and I feel like it's kind of underrated, so go pick it up. Now the next one I haven't read, but I'm really curious about, especially the cover really intrigues me, and it's A Heart and a Body in the World by Deb Caletti. And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this one, but I feel like I heard someone or I saw it in a list somewhere, and I remember like reading the synopsis and I was like, this is so up my alley. I feel like I'm going to love this book, so I just immediately bought it without even thinking. And the synopsis in the back is pretty big and it's kind of vague, so I'm just gonna read you a little bit so you can get the impression. Basically it says, then, Annabelle's life wasn't perfect, but it was full of friends, family, love, and a boy whose attention Annabelle found flattering and unsettling all at once, until that attention intensified. Now, Annabelle is running from the pain and the tragedy of the past year, with only Grandpa Ed and the journals she fills with words she can't speak out loud. And then it goes on and on, but basically it's about a girl running away from her past, and I feel like it's going to be very hard-hitting and right up my alley, so really excited to read this one. Now the next one I've already read. I feel like I talked about it in a wrap-up, maybe my August wrap-up, I don't know. And it's The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the writing. This is about two twin sisters who grew up in the deep south in a black community, and then at the age of 16 they decide to run away from home, and one of the sisters decides to live her life in a black community like she lived back home, and the other sister on the other hand is living her life as a white woman and passing as a white woman. And it's basically about their daughters connecting somehow at some point in their life, and then just like the sisters also connecting at the end. And it's a really good story about family and about the idea of passing, and yeah, really enjoyed it. 4.5 out of 5 stars, I think. Now the next one was our book club pick for, I want to say July, but I'm not sure, and it's Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi, another Mary H.K. Choi in this list. And this one I enjoyed a bit less than Yolk, but I still really enjoyed it. And this book follows Pablo, who is a college dropout, and he has no plans for the future and no idea where he's going. And it is also about Liana Smart, who is an international pop star, and it's basically about those two people meeting one day late at night at a bodega and then just like falling in love, maybe, who knows, you have to read it and see. And yeah, it's an interesting story. I had my problems with it, but it was still really nice. Mary H.K. Choi, I feel like she's so good at writing characters. Perfect. Now the next two books I got in different occasions and different times, but I'm just gonna talk about them together because it makes sense. So I got Volume 4 of Heartstopper because it came out in June. I think I got it in July. And then I also got Heartstopper Volume 1 because I haven't been collecting the books. I've been reading them illegally. I have already read all of the Heartstopper books up until now, up until Volume 4, and I really want to have all of them. And as of now, I have Volume 1 and 4, and also I got 3 recently, so I'm gonna talk about that in my next book haul. But yeah, I'm collecting the books now. So I got Volume 1, I think I got it secondhand. It's in really good condition, but I got it secondhand. And then I got Volume 4 because it came out and I was like, I need it. And I love these books. They give me so much serotonin and I just love them, so yeah. Now the next one was our nonfiction baddies book club pick for, I don't know, for maybe June, July? Or I think so, maybe May, June, or June, July. I honestly have no idea anymore, but it was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I am still surprised I have this book in my collection because I did not enjoy my time with this book at all. The only reason why I'm hesitant to sell it is because I cracked the whole spine and I have a bunch of annotations, so I don't know if this will sell because people are really picky with their book condition, but I think I will try it, to be honest. I'm hauling it to then unhaul it. And this is a memoir about Glennon Doyle's life and her coming to terms with her sexuality pretty late in life and falling in love with a woman for the first time. I really thought I was going to enjoy this book, but it was super repetitive and I just got really annoyed by it. So yeah, I know that a lot of people love this book, but it just wasn't for me. It didn't vibe with me, so yeah. The next book I still haven't read, but hopefully I will still read it either this year or early 2022, and it's The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. I really want to read this book, but the size of this really intimidates me. And yeah, this is the second book in the Poppy War trilogy. I read the first one in January, I think, and yeah, I have no rush to read this one because I still remember the story pretty well from the first book, but still I want to like continue with the series because I really enjoyed my time with the first book. So hopefully in like maybe January again, I'll pick up the second book. That would be fun. Maybe that's my plan. Now the next book I also still haven't read, but I am also really curious about it and I feel like I'm still going to pick it up this year, maybe in December, and it's The Wicker King by Kay Ingram. I've heard so many good things about Kay Ingram's books, so I am really curious about this one. I honestly don't even know what it talks about. Maybe I'll have to read the synopsis to tell you. Okay, so it's about two boys, August and Jack, and they're very different from each other. One is a jock and one is kind of like a misfit, and even though they're very different from each other, they have a really strong friendship that goes way back. And one day Jack starts having really vivid hallucinations and the only person that can help him is August. Then Jack leads August on a quest to fulfill a dark prophecy, something, fantasy kingdom, something. It's a fantasy book. I love the cover. I love this. I just love it. And now the next book that I have to talk about is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I have been meaning to read this book for a while and to get it, and I got it second hand. And I honestly also don't know what this talks about at all. I think this is about Maya Angelou's life and her life as a black woman and about the poverty and discrimination that she faced, and probably a really impactful story, so really excited to read it. Now the next book I have also already read, and I can't believe I still haven't picked up the second book in this series because I really enjoyed the first one, and I don't know, I always forget that I have this series pending, basically. And it's A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. I really enjoyed the first one. I read it, I think, last year in 2020, and I really enjoyed it, and I wanted a physical copy for myself because I want to continue with the series, and I still haven't. So I don't know what's wrong with me, but I need to continue with the series because I love Jamie and Charlotte together. And this is basically a murder mystery kind of book, and it follows Jamie Watson and Charlotte Holmes, and they're basically like the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, and they're studying at the same school, and then a murder happens and they have to come together to solve it. And I love the tension that they have, I love the romance, and I'm here for it. So I need to remember that I need to read the rest of the books. Now the next two books I had to take from the set behind me, which is unfortunate, but I got the last two books that I still had missing from my Lunar Chronicles series. So I got Stars Above, which is like a collection of short stories about the world, and then I also got Winter, which is the last book in the series, and yeah, I am still reading Winter at the moment because I can't finish it. It's so big, like look at the size. And I also read Stars Above for the first time. I had never read it, and I read it right after I finished Crest, which is kind of dumb because you're supposed to read this one after Winter. But honestly, the only reason why you're supposed to read this one after Winter is because the last story in this is set after Winter, but the rest of the stories are basically like prequels to the books, so it's fine. And yeah, finally have the whole collection with me. I need to start doing this quicker because I still have a lot of books to talk about and I've been rambling for an hour, so I need to get going. So I'm going to talk about these two books together. So I got two graphic novels. I got Nubia Real One by L.L. McKinney, which is a DC Comics story about Nubia, who is a superhero. And then I also got Persepolis by Marjan Satrapi, and I also read this one and really enjoyed it. I think this is probably one of my favorite graphic novels ever, and I'm so excited for it to continue. And this one I feel like ended a bit abruptly, but I still really enjoyed it and I really want to watch the movie. And speaking of L.L. McKinney, I also got A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. This is the first book in the, what is it called? The Nightmareverse trilogy, and this is a retelling of Alice's adventures in Wonderland, and it's a trilogy, and this is the first book, and I read this one and I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to continue with the series. Still kind of debating on it, but I really enjoyed this book. Then I got a book that I'm honestly kind of mad that I still haven't read because I've been meaning to read this book since it came out, literally, and I only just got it now physically, so I need to read it. And it's I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver, and this is so bad that I still haven't read this book. I'm actually so mad right now. Like, what is wrong with you, Mafalda? Like, I feel like I'm going to adore this book, and it's also super short, which I love, so it makes no sense. And this book follows our main character Ben, and they are non-binary, and they come out to their parents, and their parents basically force them to move out. And they feel like they are being rejected by everyone around them, and then they meet Nathan at school, and I think a friendship starts to blossom. I still haven't read a lot of books with non-binary rep, so I'm really excited to get to this one and I can't wait. Then the next book that I got was Swimming in the Dark by, I don't think I will be able to pronounce this, but I think it's Thomas Jurowski? Not sure. And this book is set in Poland in the 1980s, and it follows our main character Ludwig, who is very shy and very anxious, and for the rest of his university class he is sent to an agricultural camp. Can't say that word, agricultural. And there Ludwig meets Janus? Not sure. And they fall in love, and this kind of reminds me of the story of, what is it called? Call Me By Your Name. But I don't really like Call Me By Your Name because of the age discrepancy, because it is so wrong. So hopefully this will be a better version of Call Me By Your Name. Hopefully. I've heard a lot of good things about this one, so really excited to read it. Then the next book that I got was Feminist Theory by Bell Hooks. I've been meaning to read anything by Bell Hooks for a really long time, so when I saw this one I had to get it. And like the title says, this is a non-fiction book about feminist theory, and really excited to read it, and really excited to read something by Bell Hooks finally, because I feel like she is a very unappreciated author, even though I've heard also a lot of great things about her. I don't know, I feel like on BookTube I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, so yeah, Bell Hooks, go read it. Now the next book that I got was Love by Toni Morrison. I've obviously been really interested in reading Beloved by Toni Morrison, but I haven't found it anywhere. Like, I've been looking for it everywhere, in bookshops, in secondhand stores, and I can't find it for some reason. And when I found this cover of another book by Toni Morrison, I was just like in love. I love these editions of her books, so I just got this one. I didn't even read the synopsis, but I'm so excited to read it, especially because it's a short book and I love that. And from reading the back, I think this is a book obviously about love, and I think it's about a group of women who are like infatuated by a man called Bill Cozy. And yeah, I think that's it. I think it's these women like surrounding this man and loving this man in different ways, and it just sounds fascinating, so super excited to get to it. Now the next two books are from the same edition, so I'm just going to quickly talk about both of them at the same time. So I got Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte in the Penguin English Library editions, and I also got Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, my third edition of Little Women. No regrets there. And this one was a present from the lovely Sophia. Thank you so much. She I met up with her and she surprised me with this book, and it was just the nicest surprise ever. I'm still every time I look at the book I just smile. And this one I got because I saw this edition of Jane Eyre and it was beautiful and I want to read Bronte's sister stuff, so I just decided to start with Jane Eyre. It just feels right. I honestly don't even know what this talks about. It probably talks about the person Jane Eyre, and yeah, excited to read it though. Now the next book that I got is probably one of my favorite covers that I got this year, and it's Love in Color: Mythical Tales from Around the World Retold by Bolu Babalola. And this cover is just everything I want and more. And I feel like this is a collection of short stories. Basically what the subtitle says, Mythical Tales from Around the World Retold, so retellings of stories, famous stories. And yeah, it just sounds super great, and also it's stories told all around Africa, which I find so fascinating. So yeah, love this one. Want to read it, and hopefully I'll get to it soon. Now the next one was also a present from the lovely Mariana on Instagram, Literary Millie. I'll leave her Instagram down below, and she decided to gift me this on a whim as well, and I was just so thankful for it, especially because I've already read this book prior to getting it and I loved it. So I was already thinking of getting it for myself, a physical copy, so thankful that she got it for me. And it's Punching the Air by Evie Zuboy and Yusuf Salam. And if you don't know, Yusuf Salam is one of the exonerated 5 from the Central Park case, and this is heavily inspired by his story. And this book follows our main character Amal, and one day he goes to prison for something that he didn't do, and it's basically about him dealing with his emotions and his life in prison while he's being convicted of something that he didn't do. And it's such a powerful story. I highly recommend the audiobook. It's so great, because this is a very whimsical book. I feel like all of Evie Zuboy's books are like that and are really good as an audiobook, so highly recommend this one. The next book I already read, and it's The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This is the last book in the Sight trilogy, The Arc of a Scythe. I don't really know what the trilogy is called, but this is the last book. I read it in August, and honestly this, everyone says, is the most disappointing out of the 3 books. I did like the ending, but at the same time I didn't, and also I felt like from this big chunk of a book, a lot of things were could have been taken out and were completely unnecessary, but I digress. It was still a nice conclusion to the trilogy, and I think I give this one a 3 or 3.5 stars, and it was definitely my least favorite. And now finally we reached the last book of this book haul, the first part of this book haul, and it is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was our book club pick for September. I got it earlier in August, I think, and I really enjoyed this book. Taylor Jenkins Reid has found her place in literature. This is something that she does so well, telling stories about famous people that didn't exist, but she writes it so well that you really think that these people existed. And wow, she has a gift, honestly. We talked about it at length in our live show on Casey's channel if you want to check it out. And this book is set in California in the 1980s, and it follows the 4 children of a famous singer called Mick Riva. And if you have read Daisy Jones and the Six and the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Mick Riva was one of the characters that was mentioned in those books, and basically this is following their children. And yeah, it's a really good story. I highly recommend it. I give it, I think, 4.5 or maybe a 5-star. I honestly don't know anymore, but it was such a good book, and I just... yes. Taylor Jenkins Reid just did that, you know? Like, she just went and did it, and super proud of her. And that concludes part 1 of my very long last book haul of 2021, and look out for part 2 of this book haul that will come hopefully soonish. I will try to film it soon at least, and I will talk about all the books that I got in September and all of the books that I've gotten in the last few months, which were a lot, but in September I really went ham and I decided to spend all of my money on books because I'm crazy and I need to get a grip on my money. But thank you so much for watching, and comment down below the books that you have read and thoughts that you have about the books that I got. Please tell me all of it down below, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye!